Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne broadcasting here live from the Museum of the Grand Prairie in Stuttgart, Arkansas. Got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking a lot of college football, college basketball. Tomorrow, keep in mind, we will have Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson joining us. It's been to 2 of the last 3 World Series. And, of course, Auburn not picked in the preseason top 25 in baseball. Always love that kind of motivation if you're a coach. We'll be joined by Matt Dean over in Memphis in the first segment. Second segment, Jerry Kerby, NFL Human Computer, will check in with us talking about these NFL playoffs. And I don't know, I think it's a good question. And I'm going to start off with Matt Dean asking him, and I'm going to get his answer in a minute, but that is, do you get more excited about the college football playoffs or the NFL playoffs, or you just love both of them because at the end of the day, they are football? Hour number 2, Bo Carter checks in from the Big 12 office out in Dallas, National Football Foundation, Baseball Writers Association of America. He'll be on with us. And hopefully Ken Capps can check in with us, Football Writers Association of America. But as we talked about yesterday, Matt Dean, there is a lot happening right now, whether it's NIL, it's the portal, whatever. With John Hartwell, we got into some pretty good discussions. And I think that when you look at what is going on, the money that's being thrown around, the numbers that are thrown around out there, it is, as Auburn's athletic director John Cohen said on this show about a month ago, this model, it's unsustainable. And I agree with him totally. There are only so many people out there that are going to pump money, especially to a team that goes 5-7 or 8-4. When you're pumping in millions of dollars for 18-year-old, student athletes who haven't even done anything yet, and then they go out there and they underperform, they get kicked off the team. The team doesn't win the division, the conference. They don't make it to the college football playoff. That's going to sour you quickly. Now, I know people give money on the other side to the regular athletic fundraising divisions, or they give on the academic side. But NIL, I would think, Matt, you're expecting an immediate return on investment. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, 100%, Rob, and welcome to you. Thanks for having me on this Friday morning.
Love it.
I think what's happened too is you've had some we'll call them boosters, but investors, however you want to label them, that have been really disappointed because they've invested in some young students, and then after a year, they're in the portal, they're at a different university, and it's not like they can get that money back, or like you said, the return on the investment. We recently saw the quarterback with Florida decommit or de-enroll after a supposed $13 million NIL deal. So first of all, I think the numbers are very inflationary. I don't think that's real. Yeah. I think sometimes kids get there and have been promised one thing and don't see it, and then all of a sudden they're very disheartened. And then, the chemistry issues. We've always talked about this from a coaching standpoint. This is a relatively new concept. I have a bunch of juniors and seniors in my locker room that don't maybe have the NIL deals yet. Yeah. And we're bringing in a first-year quarterback that hasn't played a down of football, Rob, and this is the $7 million man. Now, we talked – Young was on several of those Dr. Pepper commercials, so that obviously translated to some money. But I'm not sure the realness of it has really taken place, but it's hurt a lot of locker rooms. There's no question about that, Rob.
Yeah, and obviously it has. It fractures them. I don't believe the $13 million figure. The highest one that we've heard about is Nico Lamaliva out of California, 5-star quarterback going to Tennessee. He's already enrolled. He came in December. I think he went through a lot of the bowl practices, if not all of them, before Tennessee played Clemson in the Orange Bowl. And they won that game 28-14. But still, I would think those contracts are saying you've got to do a lot to get that money. And these kids don't understand contracts, most likely, okay? And the people around them are just living vicariously through them as their meal ticket. So keep an eye on that one. Matt, let's talk some NFL playoff versus college playoffs. You get excited about one more than the other, or just love them both?
I love them both, but I am excited about Sunday, Rob, because you got Buffalo and Cincinnati, the first game, and then you got a historical matchup that goes back to when we were much younger, the 49ers and the Cowboys. I'm not a Cowboy fan. I know a lot of Cowboy fans. I grew up in the Midwest. I'm a Chicago Bear fan, so we had the number one pick in the draft. So take that for what it's worth. Misery loves company, right? But I mean, if you've seen, a lot of us were by our TV sets when Damar Hamlin went down, and we were so grateful and blessed that the first responders and the training staff at Buffalo reacted brilliantly to save that man's life. And that matchup's unique because let's talk about, you're going back to your first question. Joe Burrow right now, the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, is performing at possibly the highest level in the league. And that says a lot because Patrick Mahomes has done it for a while now. Josh Allen for Buffalo is another great young quarterback. I remember having a chance to watch Josh Allen play at Wyoming when I was up at an Iowa football game. This is several years ago. But I'm just telling you this. Think about Joe Burrow's path. He started his career at Ohio State, right? No NIL. There were some very good quarterbacks there at the time. Transferred to LSU. And his second year at LSU led them to one of the most magical seasons in college football history. Yeah. And now he's about to get paid big time as one of the, best quarterbacks in the NFL. He had one of the best quotes of all time, Rob. They asked him about your playoff or championship window. He said, "It's my whole career." So, yes, I am very long-winded answer, but Rob, I'm excited for this weekend.
Well, they are, last year, the 2 weekends of the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl were as good as I can ever remember. And my standard is 1972 when the Dolphins won against the Chiefs in the sudden death overtime.
Yes.
That was the one. Of course, that kept open alive the Dolphins, and they still, as Mercury Morris and those living members of the 72 Dolphins team remind us, every year without fail, as they get together for a party down in Miami, the last and the only undefeated team in NFL history. That 2017 of New England that was undefeated, as Sonny would say down at Alex's Tavern, undefeated. They lost. Well, let's say the Giants won in the Super Bowl 2007. Plexico Burress, we know about the great catch. Eli Manning became a household name, a rock star on top of being a rock star with the Manning last name. But remember, the Giants got into the playoffs that year. Their regular season record, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I believe they were 9-7. But they got hot.
I was thinking 10-6, but one of the two, right? They were either 10-6 or 9-7. You're right.
Yeah, and the difference is, if we look at college football versus the NFL, fans in college want perfection. I mean, once you win 11, 12 games in the regular season, then you win 14, 15 and win a national championship. Once your fan base experiences that, and your players, your coaches, they never are able to revert comfortably back to a 7 or 8 win season. And you shouldn't. You should have as a goal to win every single game. And you talk about Joe Burrow, a backup at Ohio State, comes down to LSU, gets in the right system with Joe Brady, who comes in passing game coordinator and works directly with him. Steve Ensminger as well worked with him. So you had those two together. It was the perfect, everything lined up right. You talk about matchups. What matters is the matchups on game day. Now, Frank Duffy would argue with you. That is the greatest season in the history of college football seasons ever. Okay. That undefeated LSU team, 7 wins over top 10 teams. I would compare the other team that you could argue that was that good, but I don't think they played that kind of a schedule in the regular season. But when they had to play the big games, that they really showed up, was the 95 Nebraska team that beat Florida 62-24 for the national championship. That was a beatdown. Now, think about what Georgia did, 65-7 over TCU out at SoFi Stadium for the national championship January 9th. Well, how did Florida respond after that beatdown in 95? They came back in 96, and they got a rematch with Florida State in the Sugar Bowl. They won, I think, 52-26 for their national championship. So we'll see what TCU does. I don't think they have the talent that Florida does, but TCU won't, go away and we'll never hear from them again. All right, another question for you. You look around at SEC basketball right now. We talk about it every day. The standard right now that the team everybody's chasing looks to be Alabama. Last Saturday, we thought Tennessee and Alabama were in a league or class by themselves. Kentucky, not so fast, people. They're still Kentucky. They got Oscar Tshiebwe. They got a lot of talent, a lot of experience on that team. They go in there and they win 61-56. They slow down Tennessee.
They did.
And then they win again the other night. Georgia gave them a good game. Georgia's 13-5, 3-2 in the SEC. Last year, Georgia won one SEC basketball game. We're 1-17. Couple of questions here in all that. How much better is Kentucky going to get? Is Oscar Tshiebwe the kind of leader that can pull these guys together? As much as Cal yells at them, it's up to the players, isn't it?
It is. And I think if you look at historically, the teams that rise to the top, mid, late January, February, you'll see some teams that start out fast, and I call it the dog days of February, and fade before the tournament. I would not be shocked if this Kentucky team is the complete opposite. They've lost some games early on. They probably hit their lowest point in the season, losing at home to South Carolina last week. They respond with a huge road win at Tennessee, and they followed up with, one of the most improved teams in the country in Georgia Bulldogs, and Mike White's done a tremendous job. And Mike White's a fantastic coach. We know that. I look through college basketball now, Rob, and I feel like there's no definitive number one. I know we've talked Purdue, and I'm a Big Ten guy, but you know what? We've talked Purdue before, and you get to the tournament, and it just doesn't always translate, though they have one of the best big men in the country in Zach Edney. I think there's 8, 10, 12 teams that could make a run to get to the Final Four, and I think probably 4 or 5 of them reside in the SEC. I mean, your Auburn team. I mean, I like their chances if they get the right. It's all about getting out of the first weekend. And I'll tell you my theory on the NCAA tournament. There are some really good teams that struggle to get out of the first weekend. Once you get out of that first weekend, everybody's on more even keel footing. And let me give you an example of that. When you play in conference tournaments, there are some teams that make their way in and they win 4 games in 4 days, right? Very difficult to do. Then you got to start the tournament sometimes the following Thursday. Yeah. Thursday, Saturday, Friday, Sunday. You're out of gas. And I think sometimes, ironically, when you don't win your conference tournament and you get that extra day of rest, it helps you for the NCAA tournament, if that makes sense. And that's why I've never really worried about a team losing in the first or second round of their conference tournament, because it actually mentally and physically enhances their chances at the NCAA tournament. I know that's kind of a people say, well, you lost in your conference tournament. Well, I get extra 2 days rest on you. I'm going to beat you when it matters. I watched Kansas State the other night. Jerome Tang has done one of the best jobs in the country. Longtime Baylor assistant. Kansas State is now, I think, 15-2. They knock off the, Kansas Wildcats, who were undefeated? Yeah. Or Jayhawks, not Wildcats. Sorry. Jayhawks. I was thinking Kentucky. And quite honestly, Kansas State has had historically some great basketball teams and great coaches. Yeah. But I'm just telling you, it's wide open. Houston, Kelvin Sampson. You want to play those guys? They will guard you when you get off the bus. So that's kind of my thoughts right now in the whole landscape of college basketball.
Well, when I look at what is going on, Kansas State beat Kansas 83-82 the other night. Kansas State, the Big 12 has good basketball. Last year was the Big 12 the best college basketball league in America? A lot of people, would argue that it was, and they had the national champion. They play really good ball out there. And I look at this SEC Big 12 challenge. I think it's great during the regular season. Yeah, I wish we would do that also. SEC Big 10 regular season challenge in football. It's a much more accurate barometer of the good teams and who's not so good versus playing in bowl games when you've been off for a month. And let's be honest, a lot of these guys, it's sad, but it's true. A lot of them, you can't motivate them to play. If they were in the hunt for the playoff and all of a sudden they lose a couple of games and they're out. Now, the great coaching staffs can pull those guys out. Tennessee was right there knocking on the door along with Alabama to get into the playoffs. And you've got to give a double thumbs up and a fireworks display for what Nick Saban and Josh Heupel did, getting their Tennessee and Alabama teams ready to play.
Yeah.
Tennessee dominated the ACC champion Clemson 28-14 in the Orange Bowl. And Alabama, I'm going to tell you what, Will Anderson and Bryce Young both played in that bowl game. Alabama beat the Big 12 champion 45-20, dominated mostly in the late second quarter and in the second half. But that's a great coaching staff and a great group of kids that wanted to prove and had that kind of pride, isn't it?
Yeah, and Rob, you make a good point. One of the differences in basketball and football, I've coached basketball for 3 decades at the college level.
Yeah.
We've
got 30 seconds from the break.
I'll quickly, the conference tournament and the March Madness, because the best thing that's going to happen for college football is going from 4 to 12 playoff teams. Yeah. Because a lot more kids are going to stay and play because of what you said.
Yeah, and I want to get back into this when we come out of this break, but that's true. That 4 to 12. Think about the people out in Utah and on the West Coast and people in the South, everywhere in between. In November, they're going to pay a lot more attention to the Civil War, Oregon State now with this deal. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right back after this quick break, more sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Matt, we went into the break talking about, getting your team motivated to play, and then you go from 4 to 12 teams in the college football playoff. And people are saying, oh, that's too many. We should have kept it at 2 in the BCS. I think it's exciting. You got 131 schools, Division I football teams that are eligible technically to make the college football playoff. We know how it works. There have been 13 or 14 teams total that have made the college football playoff. I believe it's 13 out of 131. College basketball, you got 357 teams eligible to make the NCAA tournament. Go back to when we were growing up. You had a 16-team tournament, 32, 64, 68. As we've done that, as we've climbed the ladder, what's happened, Matt? Interest and viewership has exploded, hasn't it? March Madness.
It has. It's off the charts. I personally think 68 is the number we need to settle on. I hear these conversations about 96, and I'm like, I think we kind of got it right.
Yeah, 68's plenty.
Yeah, I was okay with 64, but you add the playing games. I'm okay with that. The one thing I will tell you too is I briefly touched on it is how much the conference tournaments now just such a big entity, and by having the double bye, I mean, you got teams playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, trying to work their way in the tournament, then playing the following Thursday or Friday. It's really, I just can't tell you. They call it the hardwood for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, we always, later in my career as a coach, I was real cognizant of how much I worked the kids in the month of February on the floor. We may do more video work. We may do more stuff in the weight room, but it is a grind in basketball. And, it does beat you up, and you got to have depth. And even when you have depth, you got to avoid foul trouble in crucial games.
Matt, let's do this. I mean, you as a coach and as a technician, when we went from 64 to 68, the deal up in Dayton, Ohio, what was the reason we added 4 more? This is almost a sophomoric question, open-ended, but for Joe Sixpack out there, like my dad and people, they're always going, why did they go from 64 to 68? Can you explain that?
Well, the best answer I'll give you from my perspective, because I never sat down and had this conversation, but you add the 4 more teams. I think it gives the smaller, the smaller conferences a better chance. And that what normally happens is, you'll see in there an 11 seed playing 11 seed in that buy-in game, right? Well, a lot of times that's going to be like an 8-seeded team in the Big Ten or Pac-12 or whatever. It kind of assures, a little bit more representation sometimes from some folks that they consider better teams. And with what they added the net, Rob, and this whole ranking systems and the quad 1, 2, 3 situation. If you're a college coach these days and you're not going out and scheduling, you're doing your team a disservice. I mean, the one thing about it is, and I'll tell you, I've been on the national committee before at my level for NCAA rankings. And, the SOS is real. If you're 20-2 and you haven't beaten anyone, and I'm 15-7, and I've had 3 quad 1 wins and I have 3 quad 1 losses, let's say, there's a lot of people that are going to say, you know what, Rob, I'm just as good as you. I don't care if you're 20-2. You haven't played anybody, especially when you don't have a head-to-head factor. So when you go to the 68 discussion, obviously there's TV money involved. But I don't think that's the sole reason. I don't think you renegotiate that whole entire contract on 64 to 68. I think you get a little bit more competitive balance because we've always had, and this is my biggest answer to your question, how many times on bid day do we sit there and debate 65 through 68 and why they're not in? Well, a lot of times now you take a couple of those teams off the board, right, and put them on. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors. I'm not with the NCAA, but I don't think it's hurt us. But I think, like I said earlier, I wouldn't want to go more. I think we've got it right. And, they got we talk about the Final Four. Well, we got the first 4 when we go to Dayton, Ohio. And I think that's a neat way to market it too.
Yeah, this is a text. I just got this text in here from one of our listeners, Grizzly Adams in Whitefish, Montana.
Is he a rebounder for the Grizzlies? I'm sorry.
I don't know, but Grizzly Adams said, would you explain the quads, the tier 1, 2, those that win? And I'm like, well, Matt Dean can do such thing.
Well, they're different rankings, right, throughout the country. A lot of there's a metric called, you probably heard the Ken Palm ratings, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And, the quads, basically, from my understanding, you have teams that have developed points within, wins or losses, and just on your schedule. Like, sometimes a road win against a team that's above 500 is going to be worth more than a home win versus a team that's maybe in the top 50, if that makes sense. So, there are different quadrants in terms of how they view competition, and it's all based, from my knowledge, on teams and their records. And if you look at the SEC right now, I was going through their standings. I told you this yesterday. What's incredible is, and I think Buzz did this last year, A&M gets better. Buzz Williams, one of the best coaches in the country. So he has 5 non-conference losses. They are undefeated right now in SEC play. We know it's early. They're 5-0 in SEC play, so they haven't played the gamut yet. But Buzz is not afraid to lose to good people because he knows, if I got a quad 1 or quad 2 loss because it's a competitive situation, it's enhancing. So scheduling is really important. Just to kind of answer your question from your Grizzly Adams fan, and anytime you can win on the road against a quality opponent, that is one of the best things you can do. We used to have a saying in basketball. If we look at our conference schedule, we used to give us a point for a road win. Okay. Really, I got nothing for a home win, but I got a minus for a home loss. So if you look it up and do that system the way we used to do in conference play, what's the worst thing that could happen? We've always said conference play doesn't start till you lose a home game. And I believe that's true. That's why Tennessee's loss last week was really big in my mind. They were on their own floor. Now, they're going to get a chance to win in some other venues on the road to get that back. But Kentucky, that's a big win for Kentucky. That win for Kentucky, if they keep progressing, is going to enhance their chances come Selection Sunday.
Oh, big time. Doug Dean, AU Dose, sent this to me. Fear the Jungle. Gonzaga had lengthened its Division I best home win streak to 75 with wins over Pepperidge Farms, the always pesky Roanoke Sisters of the Poor, and Sarah Lee, plus the clutch home overtime win over Western Tomato Can. I love his writing. But the Loyola Marymount Lions hit clutch shots down the stretch to beat the Zags 68-67. The nation's longest win streak now resides in the Jungle, Neville Arena, that is, in Auburn, Alabama, despite brutal SEC schedules hosting perennial titans like Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, and non-conference top 25 opponents. Coach Bruce Pearl's Tigers have won 28 straight home games. You said you like my writing, and yes, I do. Doug Dean, who is, by the way, high up in a deer stand right now over in the Black Belt in Western Alabama, trying to get him another deer. Man's got to eat. Good luck. Good shot. Or you may be bow hunting, but great writing there. Gonzaga, again, you talk about not playing. They do play. Mark Few's been there, 20 years? And I like him as a coach. I love what they've done. It's a Jesuit, Catholic university out there in Tacoma? Seattle, Tacoma. It's not Seattle, but I think it's Tacoma. But their weekend.
Is it Spokane or is it Tacoma?
It's Spokane. You're
Okay.
right. It is. Yeah, Spokane. But night in and night out, when you play tougher schedule, it's true. Iron sharpens iron. You want to be a good runner. You need to run. You need to do a lot of hills. Okay, got to stretch, but you got to take care of yourself. To fully appreciate what it takes. And Matt, stay on with us because Jerry Kerby, the NFL human computer, is going to be on with us here in just a minute. I want you to stay on. I know you're going to have some questions about your Bears and that number 1 draft pick. We're going to ask him who he thinks it'll be. But Jerry watches every NFL game. But once he doesn't watch, he tapes and goes back and watches them. And he has the all 50 high school package all over the country. And he has the full 22 screen in his man cave, which means, like the coaches, he sees everything happening. Now, last week, he was pretty good, but he missed on Seattle taking out San Francisco. But I love, again, back to this quality of scheduling. Night in and night out. You're better off playing better teams, Matt. And you're right, absolutely right as a coach. That's a great point. Until you lose a home game, conference play doesn't begin. And that is a great take on it. Jerry Kerby on here with Matt Dean. Matt's from is an Iowa native, not too far from Des Moines. Which one? Davenport, but
Des Moines is where I went to college, Drake University. So
Drake University, the Bulldog. But right. He is a he's a lifer Chicago Bears fan there, Jerry. How about them brats and the beers and a couple of pork chops for Coach Ditka there? But Jerry, NFL playoffs last weekend. Let's get your takeaways from those games. You had some great insight last Friday when you were on sidelines with us. And then we're going to take a peek ahead to this weekend. And I know Matt's got some questions as well.
As I say, good morning, Matt, and good morning, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I pulled a Brett Maher on my picks last week. So I mean, first of all, we saw Metcalf score that big touchdown. I told you their secondary wasn't that great. and that one turnover just opened up the I don't know
The floodgates.
Floodgates. That's what I said. Yeah, the floodgates, and then trying to think of the other games.
Well, you're talking about San Diego and Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions and comes back from a 27-0 deficit. And then on Sunday, you had a third-string quarterback, Miami Dolphins, and was going on a tying drive or a game-winning drive, and I have to thank Miami, man, I didn't think they were going to be in that game. That was kind of like, do your errands. This is the time to do your errands during that game because I thought it was going to get ugly.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it last week about Miami. I got to ask you this. Is Tua Tagovailoa done? I mean, he had multiple concussions this year, but I go back to that one game when he got hit so hard. Matt, you saw it.
Yeah.
He got up, was walking, fell back down, and he stayed in the game. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a fan. I'm watching these games, but to take the third string quarterback and do what they did and get at least they got in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, 3 concussions in 3 months. I mean, I would have to. He has to like go to like get some medical and see what they say and see if he can get cleared because that he's risking his life. You know, I mean, if you saw the DeMar Hamlin thing, I mean, this could be another thing too as well.
Yeah. All right. Before we go to Matt, I got to ask you this question. The Cowboys go on the road, get their first road win in the NFL playoffs since '93. They were 0-8. They had, Tombstone. Of all the losses on the road, but 30 years, and Dak Prescott and the Cowboys went on the road and just opened up a can of whoop hours on Tampa Bay. I don't know if it's the end for Tom Brady, but it's the beginning of a lot of possibilities for the Cowboys. And I don't think there's a more watched franchise in all of pro sports, in any sport, than as Jerry Jones calls them, the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, it was more like a curse stomping to me. I mean, they put so much pressure on Tom Brady that he threw 66 times. That's crazy. I mean, that just tells you you're not going to win the game with 66.
No. Wow.
I mean,
they have no running game.
Well, I mean, they had no running game all season. I mean, they just have no offensive line, to put it that way. I mean, he was missing some of his offensive linemen. And I thought, a good receiving core, he had Evans, Godwin, and Gage, and I'm glad he's all right as well. And Julio Jones as well. I mean, you think they would produce more points than they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Dean jumping here with Jerry Kerby talking this NFL playoffs. And, man, these guys are all pros. They all get checks. And it's a lot harder to predict NFL games than it is college games.
Yeah, I think Jerry's spot on with Tampa's offensive line problems. They did get back Ryan Jensen, Tom's center, for that game. But let's be honest, he's coming back an injury that he rehabbed all year. That was his first live competition. Thought he held his own. On the right side, though, Tristan Wirfs, who's my Iowa guy, who's an all-pro guy, did a great job. I thought Donovan Smith all year, their left tackle. I think he led the league in holding penalties, and they were not complimentary football, like you said, Jerry. I mean, they threw it. You cannot win a football game throwing it 66 times. And really, when they were making their run to the Super Bowl, I mean, you look at Leonard Fournette and the importance he had in that offense running the football. I mean, I even liked early on in the season Rachaad White out of the backfield, but they just never had the balanced attack. They averaged under 20 points. I think they were 18 points something a game offensively. And in the NFL, that's not good enough. Now, getting back to Miami game, I thought Skylar Thompson did a great job. You mentioned the third-string quarterback from Miami. Our guy Jalen Waddle had 3 or 4 drops in the first half that could have helped him out even more. But once again, and I'm a big Buffalo fan as well, they get a 17-0 lead, and what happens? They start turning the ball over. The one was not his fault that hit Beasley in the chest and popped out before the first half, but that ended up leading to the tying touchdown. And then, quite frankly, the Dolphins take the lead on the strip sack, right? And Buffalo had to scramble at home just to win that football game. So if Buffalo turns the ball over this week against Cincinnati, they will not win. Though I like Buffalo because they're at home, but that's going to be a classic matchup.
Jerry, before we go to the break, you called it last week. We'd get that Buffalo-Cincinnati matchup. You've been saying that all along. We're going to talk more with Jerry Kerby, Rob Browne, Matt Dean, live from the Museum of the Arkansas Grand Prairie in Stuttgart, Arkansas, after this quick break.
From Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Okay, Rob Browne back with you, talking with Matt Dean and Jerry Kerby. And let's go this matchup, Buffalo and Cincinnati Bengals. Jerry, break it down for us.
Well, Buffalo gives up the second least amount of points in the league, and Cincinnati gives up the 6th most in the league. And if you watched that little brief Monday Night Football game they had, I mean, Cincinnati was just throwing dimes on them. They were just driving down the field easily, and I'm thinking, but also I'm hearing that the Bengals are going to be missing 3 of their offensive linemen as well. So that's gonna hurt Burrow big time, because I think the Bills saw what the Ravens were doing, and they were twisting and stunting, and that could lead to getting to Burrow, and that Von Miller injury is really impacting them as well, because that would be a Von Miller thing that he would get to the quarterback as well. And I think the Bills defense, the secondary is, I think, banged up, because I think Joe Mixon can run the ball on them too as well. I mean, if it's one dimensional, I just don't like Cincinnati's chances. So,
yeah, Matt, you look at, again, we're talking about a minute ago, those 4 receivers that Jerry mentioned that Tampa Bay had, and Tom Brady threw the ball 66 times, and they had nothing. They got some points there late, garbage points. That game was long over. And in the NFL, if you're a running back and you can't run between the tackles, if you have to only run wide, you don't have much of a career. I look at this Cincinnati game. Man, you've got 2 stud quarterbacks. Both of them are capable of running. more than people realize. People say this guy's a running quarterback. And we've asked Jerry this, has there ever been an NFL quarterback, a running quarterback, win the Super Bowl? But don't underestimate the foot speed. I mean, Joe Burrow especially. This guy's a great athlete.
Talking about running quarterbacks, I mean, I remember back in the 90s, and Steve Young was a great passer. It wasn't, but Steve Young was one of the most athletic guys at that position. I remember winning a Super Bowl for the 49ers. Remember, he took the monkey off his back. Remember when he finally won the Super Bowl against, I think, the San Diego Chargers. And then, can you hear me, Rob, or no? We good?
Yeah.
Okay. So getting back to those 4 receivers, I also think Jerry makes a great point, though. Joe Mixon could be one of the biggest factors in the game because they have more complementary balance, I think, with their team. Obviously we talk about Jamar Chase a lot, but T. Higgins is a great wide receiver. I like Tyler Boyd, who played collegiately at Pitt. And I love Mixon. And, in the red zone, P. Ryan, the Oklahoma guy, does a really nice job for them in red zone situations as well. But Buffalo, I mean, I'm a big Stephon Diggs fan. The tight end, Dawson Knox has been outstanding. Gabe Davis, it's just there's so many weapons on both sides of the ball. But I still think turnovers. If Buffalo doesn't turn it over, I think they're going to win the game. I know that's a profound statement, right? But I mean, Buffalo's bugaboo lately that kept. If Buffalo doesn't turn it over, they blow out Miami. That game is not even close. But they gave Miami chances after chances and survived. And in playoff football, usually when you turn the ball over, you're not going to win. And that's why what's incredible about what happened with Jacksonville, guys. You're talking about 4 picks, like Jerry said, 5 turnovers. They're down 27-0. They come back and win. It's just one of the most incredible games. Now, I think this week Kansas City ends it for Jacksonville, and I think convincingly. But last weekend, that was one of the most shocking developments, half to half, I've ever seen in playoff football.
Yeah. Jerry, have you ever seen a game where a team is down like Jacksonville was, 27-0? Quarterback Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions, and they come back and win. Is that saying a lot more about Jacksonville, or is it about the problems that San Diego has? I think it says more about Jacksonville. They were a 500 team, and they're refusing to give up.
I mean, that's why Trevor Lawrence was like in college. It was adversity. It's like he was a winner when he played, he was always a winner. And the thing is, he's 37-0 on Saturdays. As a starting quarterback in high school, NFL, and college.
I like those chances.
Yeah.
They're playing on Sunday this week, aren't they, Rob?
No, they're Saturday.
That's right.
Yeah, the first game. First game.
Yeah. Something's going to happen here. It's going to be the colossal upset, or we're going to have the streak broken.
Yeah. Well, other things too is I think in the NFL, defensive coordinators shouldn't be head coaches because it hurts the quarterbacks. I mean, I think it's hurting Justin Herbert. Big time. I mean, he's a very talented quarterback, and I have him projected after Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. After they're retired, I see him. He's at least a top 3 quarterback after they are done.
Yeah, when you look at the quarterback play, I mean, I think, you talk about Justin Herbert. I mean, for the Chargers, played at Oregon, grew up a couple of 3 blocks away from Autzen Stadium out there. He is a really good one. We've got some good young quarterbacks I see coming in, guys. But when Joe Burrow, what is this? This is year 3. And then again, he was a 3rd-team guy at Ohio State before he transferred to LSU. He's looking, and you mentioned it last week, Jerry. He could be taking over for Tom Brady. Tom Brady might just have run his course at Tampa, but he looks like he's still got plenty of miles left on his, on the treads. But Joe Brady, to me, is the future of the NFL. Even more so. Well, Patrick Mahomes has already got a Super Bowl. I know that. But Joe Burrow can do everything, and he's very similar personality in terms of being a leader who's calm under pressure as Tom Brady is.
Yeah. I compare them as the same quarterbacks. So, I mean, and like I said, if you look at Tom Brady the last 2 years with Todd Bowles, they've struggled. It's because Todd Bowles is a defensive coordinator. And if you look at when he was with Bruce Arians, their offense was good and they won the Super Bowl because Bruce Arians was an offensive-minded coach. That's what I'm telling you. Offensive coordinators make good coaches in the NFL.
Yeah. Matt, you look around the NFL last week, Jerry was pointing out Kyler Murray. He's got a contract that's paying him, I don't know if he's going to get it all, $250 million. I'm not sure what percentage of that was actually guaranteed. Kyler Murray might be 5'9", 5'10". Jerry says, he's more of a baseball player playing quarterback. He gets hurt this year. Colt McCoy, who's been in the league for about 30 years since he left Texas, he finishes out this season. What do you feel is going on with the quarterback play? It looks to me like we're bringing in a lot of guys like Jalen Hurts. He wasn't considered a great passer in college, but he could scramble when the play broke down. And I remember his freshman year at Alabama. He he made most of his passes outside, the pocket, running for his life. But he's somehow stayed alive with Philadelphia doing that. And we're seeing more of that. Then you've got a traditional quarterback like Joe Burrow. What's going on? What's your take?
Well, I think there's also another factor. I agree with Jerry. The offensive coordinator is very important for a quarterback development. That's number one. But number two, and I think maybe even importantly that we don't talk about enough, is if you find your franchise quarterback, you better protect them with a great offensive line. And I think what Jalen Hurts has at Philadelphia now, you have Jason Kelce at the center position, probably the best in the league at that position. Lane Johnson, who's been hurt, hopefully going to play this weekend at right tackle. You can put Lane anywhere you want on the line. He's very versatile. And you look at the reason why Tom Brady is playing at 45. For the most part, in Tom Brady's career, he's been behind an offensive line that allows him to sit in the pocket and pick defenses apart, right? Let's go to Joe Burrow. This is where Joe Burrow is really unique. He was sacked, I think, Jerry, you're the stat guy. He was sacked more than anyone his rookie year, I think. And they've added pieces on that offensive line. But as you pointed out earlier, they're banged up on the offensive line. And Buffalo doesn't have Von Miller this weekend. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup. One of the edge rushers that they have, a guy named A.J. Epinesa, I know very well because he was an All-American, played at the University of Iowa. Can Buffalo get to Burrow? If they get to Burrow, they're going to win the game. But it's easier said than done because Joe's got the Tom Brady vision of he knows where he's going right when he checks down. He knows exactly what he's doing pre-snap. Getting to Kyler Murray, that's probably the one that, it just didn't work there, Jerry, because, Kingsbury, who just got fired, was an offensive guy. I think, too, what's a perfect marriage? If you have someone at head coach that can find the right offensive coordinator and give them freedom, and they have a great relationship with the quarterback, and that person also controls the locker room, I think that's the best thing. What happens with those guys is, you know what? They become head coaches, and you lose them. Then you elevate someone else, and they may not be as good. So I think that's the dilemma when you're an owner hiring a head coach is, I need that relationship. I need that franchise quarterback, but I need that person to also be able to handle the locker room. And a lot of times, I just don't think that happened in Los Angeles Chargers this year with Brandon Staley. I know Derwin James came out and said, hey, he's my guy. I support him. And that's why I think they fired Lombardi, the offensive coordinator. But quite frankly, they better get that right because Herbert, like Jerry said, he's right up there with those other top guys.
Yeah. Jerry, along the line of what Matt was saying, these quarterbacks, who are the top guys coming out of college that you've identified that you think are going to be good fits in the NFL? Look around at Bryce Young, likely going to be the number one pick. This guy is so athletic and so fast, and he gets the job done. He's a very efficient quarterback. I would love to take him number one in the draft. Would you agree?
Yes. I would trade Justin Fields to the Texans so I can get the top 2 picks and take Will Allen as well.
We're not trading Justin Fields, Jerry. I'm just telling you that right now. I disagree with that, just so you know. This is from Bear Nation. We are not
Justin Fields is a running back, running back. But
man, come on, Jerry. Year 2. Didn't really have any starts year 1. Come on, brother.
I agree.
You got to give him a chance. You drafted up to get Justin Fields. You moved to 11. You gave up a lot of draft capital. If you're Chicago Bears franchise, I'm just telling you, I would be highly disappointed if we didn't. I think we need to trade, but I don't think we need to trade with Justin Fields. I think you manipulate the pick. I think you could. I've seen one mock draft, Jerry, where the Bears trade the 1 to Houston for the 2, and then the Bears trade the 2 to the Colts for the 4, and they end up getting like 4 number 1s out of the deal, and they still get Will Anderson at 4. So that's my thoughts, just so you know. I'm not giving up Justin Fields.
I agree. I have that Joe Burrow thing, the stat thing. It say if he gets sacked more than 5 times, he's 0-3. Wow. And then if Burrow gets sacked fewer than 5, he's 13-1.
Wow. Fewer than 5, Jerry?
Yes.
Wow. That's a good betting information tip right there.
Burrow's only been – Jerry, you're saying Joe Burrow's only been sacked 5 times all year?
No, if he gets sacked more than 5 times, he's 0-3. Then if he gets sacked fewer than 5, he's 13-1.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know last year
9
he got
with the
sacked.
Titans. He had I think it was 9 versus the Titans, and he still won the game.
That was an incredible game, by the way. Yeah. How they won that game was just I don't get it. That was incredible.
Yeah. I'm a Titans fan too, so.
Me too, Jerry.
Yeah. Well, the number I'm trying to think of the number of times Joe Burrow. Yeah, he has been sacked, and he's tough. I mean, he's resilient, getting sacked multiple times in some games in his 3-year career, and keeps fighting on. But I still think that what you look at these quarterbacks: Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Brady, Josh Allen. These are some really good quarterbacks. Where'd Josh Allen play? Wyoming?
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, they're not – and Joe Burrow, of course, Ohio State to LSU. Trevor Lawrence, Clemson. Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech. But Josh Allen, Buffalo's a really good team. But, again, when you look at the NFL guys, these guys are all professionals. At the same time, Julio Jones didn't have much of a career with the Titans after 9 or 10 straight years with the Falcons. But you're talking Mike Evans, Julio Jones, some really big, tall, fast receivers. But it goes to show you, if you can't run the ball and you've got to throw the ball 66 times, you look in college. If you throw the ball for 400 yards against somebody in SEC play, but you only run the ball for 37 yards, I'll bet you a steamer pack of crystals and a 30 rack of Ham's beer, you don't win that game. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
No, I would agree, and I wouldn't take that bet, just so you know. But I think you and Jerry just hit on something that's very important. Rob, you were talking about Mahomes, Texas Tech, and Josh Allen, Wyoming, right, in college. And, Jerry, you're talking about the importance of an offensive coordinator, primarily, in your opinion, the head coach, but let's just say a great offensive coordinator, period. Well, that just shows you that's why so many number 1 picks overall at quarterback bust, because it's all about development. These guys may come from some obscure places, but they hook on with the right coach at the professional level. You see that. Great example is the New York Jets right now. They are in a hot mess, guys. They have a great defense, and The team doesn't want
Matt,
to play.
hold those thoughts.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with more. Hour number 2 coming up with Bo Carter. Got Matt Dean and Jerry Kerby. A few more closing comments. Friday's edition of Sidelines. I'm back here with you. Brief interruption. We interrupted the program. We're going to do this special bulletin. Bo Carter is going to join us here in just a second. Not a second. Our not in Metro, but Dallas. Matt Dean, Gary Kerby, the coach. Gary, closing question I have for you. Give me a picture of in the playoff. Is Gary, you able to hear me?
No.
Matt, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I wasn't earlier, but I can hear
Jerry, go
you.
ahead. Yeah, Jerry, let's get your picks for this weekend in the playoff games in the NFL.
My picks are Kansas City. What's the other? Kansas. Cincinnati. The Eagles. And whoever turns the ball over first in the Dallas and San Francisco game is going to lose. And then if Brock Purdy wins, he will be the 5th quarterback in NFL history as a rookie quarterback to go to the conference championship game. And the last quarterbacks were Sean King, Big Ben, Flacco, and Sanchez. And Big Ben and Flacco won the conference championship games.
Yeah, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Mr. Brock Purdy, yeah. Okay, so look, Jerry, let's do it next week. See what happens. So you got your picks are whoever fumbles, turns the ball over first in the Cowboys 49ers game lose. Okay,
Right.
Kansas City. Okay, and Cincinnati, Buffalo. Who you picking?
Cincinnati. I think Burrow will overwhelm.
Cincinnati, Buffalo. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna take those. All right, Jerry. Let's do this again next week. See what happens. But appreciate your time on here, Jerry Kerby out of Clarksville, Tennessee. I think I had more NFL games logged in his brain than about anybody. It's like Einstein. Jerry, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
All right. Let's go back to Matt Dean. Matt, we're going to be joined now by Bo Carter coming out of Dallas. In Dallas, last week, we talked, and I remember Jerry last week, Bo, was saying that he thought that Tampa Bay would knock off the Dallas Cowboys. But as Jerry Jones again says, nobody is going to beat the Dallas Cowboys when I'm on the sidelines in the pregame. And I watched that warm-up, and Matt Dean, Bo Carter, was former SID at Mississippi State, and then in the Big 12 office a long time, National Football Foundation writer, Baseball Writers of America. Bo from Sheffield, Alabama. Matt Dean is at Rhodes College, associate AD, former AD basketball coach, 16 years. So we got some pretty smart people on here. But, man, I watched that Monday night color TV. You know, cable's pretty expensive, so Audrey and I put on our parkas and went out there and got the binoculars out and watched it through the neighbors and pulled up. And I tell you what, the Dallas Cowboys were looking pretty good out there Saturday night. How about them Cowboys, Bo?
Well, it was an interesting game, Rob. No found to contradict Jerry on predictions. We're trying to kind of stay neutral, but Dak Prescott, really after having a horrible game, 14 of 38 against the Redskins, kind of came out. He ran the old Emery Ballard play there. You remember this one too, Rob and Mr. Dean, the fake it inside and do the old naked reverse on that one play. It worked for old John Bond and the Wishbone for about 4 years. They beat LSU 4 years in a row with the same thing. But Matt, it's good to have a Rhodes Scholar on here too, by the way. We appreciate you being with us. But it probably was a very interesting game. I was
kind
of
it's elite.
by the way.
Hey, it's your elite company. I mean, we hope Ken Capps would join us. I'm not sure if his cellular phone is working. He had I sent him the invite to come on board here with us. I mean, he may pop in out of nowhere. He may be ODing on some brisket at Bucky. But anyway, Matt, one of the things we talk about, Bo has been in the SEC for a long time and been around Big 12, SEC, basketball, football, college baseball, and all. And we're talking about, there's a lot of stuff happening right now. I see Dan Ninos is back at Arkansas as the offensive coordinator. He's been there, and he's been around. And he's got a very impressive resume. He's been most recently up there with the Hog Farmer at Illinois, Brett Bielema, whatever. You take your pick. But he's back at Arkansas. Kendall Browse, before the deal has even been done, apparently, is he coming to TCU to be their new offensive coordinator since Garrett Riley flew the pooch and is heading over to Clemson to join Dabo?
Yeah, it looks. Everything says they had him in a TCU. Yep. They had him in a TCU coaching gear yesterday, and several other. And they're getting interesting comments on it, as you can imagine, from his dad Art Briles with the issues that Baylor had. And Art's been coaching high school football, and I think it was in Italy one year. But the guy's great. I mean, he's a good offensive coordinator. Did a great job at Baylor, and I think he was at Florida State for maybe a year or two. I'm not sure, but he's probably head coaching material if he can get some of the past issues settled, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Bruce Pearl, look at Hugh Freeze. They've had their issues in the past, and they're at the Auburn University home for people who are getting a second chance, and they're doing. I think Bruce Pearl's doing well. I think Hugh Freeze will do well, and Art Briles coaching in Italy, man. And that's now Italy. That's just south of Stevensville, isn't it? He really did go to Italy, didn't
Italy, the nation of Italy.
Italy.
Remember the great John Grisham book, Playing for Pizza. Remember that? He spent 6 months over there following pro football in Italy. A great book.
Wow, John Grisham, one of the great writers. Matt, we look here: Big 12, SEC, Big 10, Pac-12, ACC, Conference USA, American Athletic Conference. There's good football, basketball, baseball played all around the country. As you see it, and we were talking just a little while ago about, the NCAA tournament in basketball, how big it is, this expansion of 4 to 12 teams. You know a lot about the Big Ten. You're a Hawkeye native. What would making the 12-team playoff mean to the Iowa fan base? And even if they lost in the first round, 42-7, would that bring in a lot of interest? I think it would.
Oh, enormous. And hello, Bo. We haven't met maybe one time before, but I'll go back to, I think it was 15 maybe, when Iowa played in the Big Ten championship game against Michigan State and literally lost on one of the last plays of the game when they were up 4. Michigan State scores at a goal line run. And they knew if they'd have won that game, they'd probably got blown out next week against Alabama. We didn't care. We want to get there. So that's why, to me, this 12, it's enormous. And plus, it keeps some teams in it late. Look at it this year. Alabama would have been probably the 5 seed, right? And that'd have been a heck of a matchup. I'm guessing TCU and them in the second round game, quarterfinal game, or was it Ohio State? I'm not sure who was the 4th. It was Ohio State and Alabama. Gosh, Alabama, the way they were playing at the end of the year, what they did against Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl, they could have run the table. I mean, it's gonna be interesting, I think. And then, this year you look at Ohio State, how well they played after losing to Michigan, and really, if their kicker makes that kick, Georgia doesn't have that 65-7 win. And what TCU did to Michigan, I mean, Michigan statistically had a ton of yards, but TCU was very opportunistic.
Bo, Matt's right. TCU, they're very cunning, like a coyote, hanging around the hunting camp. There'll be enough duck carcasses left by the irresponsible slobs eventually, and they come in there and ghost carcasses, whatever. That's what they're like, TCU. But finally, they ran into, King Kong, the Georgia Bulldogs, back-to-back national champions. And I said this to Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, on the show a couple of weeks ago. I saw it out on the Twitter sphere from a Twittiot, an idiot. This person, is Georgia considered a blue blood football program? I replied, yeah. I asked that to Tony. He said, of course they are. Now they've won back-to-back national champions. Yes, they are. But there are still people who questioned Stetson Bennett. They're never going to be happy because he's only 5'10". They want the 6'4", 235-pound guy, that's the prototypical NFL prospect. I mean, you got a guy that can win. Hey, man, go with him.
Look at Doug Flutie and Matt pointed out to Matt, to your point too. They were talking about, I think the 12-team expanded group, they say could bring in between $400 and $450 million in television revenue. So the mid majors are going to really benefit from this. Plus the rich will get richer. But it's a Bill Hancock, the executive director that you've had on, Rob, has said several times. They don't leave that much money on the table. And I sort of break it down monetarily, but that's just the way it is.
No, it's
a great deal for the schools.
But Bo, along the lines of what you're saying, right now with a 4-team playoff, they're bringing in $450 million a year. Now you say with a 12-team playoff, would that be $1.35 billion? Well, I don't know, but it'd be over $1.1 billion, maybe $1.2 billion, and that's a lot of money. And Matt, you being at Division III school, but you understand the big picture of D1, 2, and 3. If that money trickles down, look what happens from the NCAA basketball tournament on the D2 and D3 level. Talk about that. Explain that to people.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly yesterday, but at Division III level, Bo, 3% of the contract for Division I March Madness with CBS pays for all of our championships. So everything we do postseason outside of conference tournaments, when we get in the NCAA championships, that is funded as a direct result of that contract. So that money's obviously, if that money would ever go away, if Division III lost their 3%, we'd have to self-fund our championships, and that's just not going to happen. And so to me, when you increase the size of that pie, look at Tulane this year and what they did in the Cotton Bowl against USC. I mean, I know that was partially because USC imploded the last 5 minutes of the game, but they probably would have been the 12 seed in this formula. So you talk about the American Conference, Rob, they're going to benefit from this, and obviously the Big 12 this year, I have a nephew that plays on the band at Kansas State. They stayed at our house on the way to New Orleans, and they were fired up. And I told him, I said, look, Will Anderson and Bryce Young are playing. I think Alabama's pissed, and I think they're in trouble. and they were, even though Deuce Vaughn is one of the best running backs in the country. He's electric. But Kansas State, give them credit. They're the only team, it was a wonderful Big 12 final. That was one of the best college football games I've seen. And obviously, I was so happy for TCU to still get in the football playoff. If you watch Max Duggan's post-game presser, the young man is so accountable. It wasn't his fault, but he took it on his shoulder, and I was so happy for him that he got a chance. And I love the fact, hey, anytime Iowa fans, anytime Michigan or Ohio State loses, it's a great day. So when TCU beat Michigan for Matt Dean, it was a great day.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's good stuff, because what we get caught up in is we become extremely myopic. When you watch and you listen to some of the people that call the national shows, TV shows, perhaps, and I really wonder about the mental health and the well-being of a lot of these people. If their team doesn't win the national championship, the season was a waste and a disaster. I mean, come on. I don't know what they do personally, but I want to know. When we have these guests on TV, it'll say, Kirk Herbstreit, Ohio State quarterback, all Big Ten, has your bio and your Twitter handle. Why don't we start having these callers to call into these shows, their personal bio, 417 pounds, rides a scooter, lives in the basement at his parents' house at age 64, never finished high school, can't hold a steady job, drinks a lot. I mean, let's be honest. Again, you want to say that season was a disaster. Why don't you go up and tell Will Anderson, y'all didn't make the college football playoff. The season was a waste and a disaster. You go tell Will Anderson that, or you go tell, anybody that plays college football or basketball, whatever, that is a disaster. I really wonder about but again, I want to start having their bios. No, none of this anonymous stuff. Give your real name, okay? Because if you really mean it, you're going to say it. Go tell Max Duggan that TCU is no good. I mean, come on. But that's where we are, and I agree with what y'all are saying. The level of interest, if we went from 4, which we are, to 12 in college football, it's not going to hurt the game. Let's be honest, guys. it's going to give us more games. It's going to extend the fun. You know, as Barry Switzer famously said, when they were piling on top of each other in the locker room after one of his many big wins as the coach at Oklahoma, he said, "Boys, too much is never enough." I agree with that. Hey, that also applies to food and good drinking and good everything. I mean, too much is never enough. Now, people can come back and say, too much of anything, isn't a good thing. Well, yeah, I understand about moderation, but too much winning, no. It's too much is never enough. Somebody reply to that one. Anybody going to disagree with me on that one?
Go ahead, Bo.
Oh, yeah, man, I was going to say, and Robin, meant to your other point too, if they did put bios of the fans on there, Mildred and some of the people, Feinbaum, Feinbaum would be out of business.
Yeah, Mildred, a picture of Mildred, down at the beach. Woo, pow, my daughter, my Lisbon daughter's coming over this weekend. Your daughter from Lisbon? No, my Lisbon daughter. Paul Feinbaum, what he should be doing, what I'd love to see Paul do, and I've met him a couple of times. I don't know him. He went to my high school, Christian Brothers High School in Memphis. He transferred to White Station High School, went to the University of Tennessee. The guy is as funny when you watch him. He needs to be doing what David Letterman. You remember when Letterman was funny before he got too much into politics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Feinbaum, when he interviews people, can keep that deadpan, that poker face. I don't know how he does it, but 4 hours, they got a camera on him 5 times a week. It's unbelievable. As Buddy Martin calls him, he's everybody's pinata, but I love the guy. So anyway, we're going to be right back with Paul, Mildred, and my niece Petunia from down in Pine Level, Alabama, right after this quick commercial break.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Bo, Bo Carter, he liked to come on sidelines. I won't listen to him. Hey, check us out every Monday through Saturday, though. We are here 6 days a week, 2 hours every day, www.sidelines.live. If you miss us live, about an hour afterwards, you can go to our website. It's there, posted, and YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Also, 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. Kicks 96.3 Radio Alabama Group, Lake Martin, 750 miles of beautiful shore, one of the cleanest lakes in America. 100-year anniversary coming up. Got a cool coffee table book. Great towns around Lake Martin like Kalijah. We all remember that great Hank Williams Sr. song, Poor Old Kalijah. Oh, what a great song. I can't sing, but I'll let Bo do that. Bo is a very, very good singer. But anyway, we are here 6 days a week. Also, WLIV up in Cookeville, Tennessee, 104.7 has started carrying Sidelines, and we are working hard to get this on terrestrial radio more and more on the potentially, hopefully going to be on in a couple of more stations and some new markets here soon. But we talk SEC and college football, baseball, basketball, recruiting. That's what we do. That's who we are. You can follow us on Twitter at Sidelines _ that _ remember that _ live at Sidelines _ live. And if you're watching today, we're broadcasting live from the Museum of the Grand Prairie in Arkansas. A lot about the history of these people over here. It's really cool. Duck hunting, of course, and it's really neat. Bo and Matt, after today's show, I'm going to be interviewing my friend Gail Camp, 97 years old. Met her back in the mid-90s in the Mid-South Hunting Retriever Club, training dogs. She and her husband, Frank Camp, who passed away in 2021, were duck hunting up until he passed away at the OK Duck Club, Osceola Kaiser, Arkansas, about 1,200 acres of beautiful flooded green timber. Well, I'm going to be interviewing Gail Camp for a feature that will be played March 3rd at the Arkansas Waterfowlers Hall of Fame induction ceremony that night. And it is a who's who of great waterfowlers. And Gail figured out early on in her life and her marriage with her husband, Frank, if I wanted to see my husband, I better learn to duck hunt. And she became a world duck calling champion at the championship in Stuttgart in the 1950s, competed in the 60s, and she's a legend, absolutely amazing. And she will be hunting this year at age 97. So those of you people that believe in early retirement, forget about it, says Joey Bag of Donuts. Gail Camp, there are more women than you think that hunt. Like Ted Nugent said on that bumper sticker on the back of Matt's 1979 AMC Pacer he drives, it says, take your kids hunting so you don't have to go hunting for your kids. Now, you tell me, Matt and Bo, that y'all didn't, rock out a few times to Cat Scratch Fever in the 70s and the 80s. And by the way, I'll never forget, a buddy of mine back in 1976 said he saw Ted Nugent at Six Flags down in Atlanta walking around the park one time, no shirt, that massive, mane of hair he had, no shoes, no shirt, and some greasy, dirty old blue jeans. And he wasn't quite sure where he was, but he did see Ted Nugent. Brushes with greatness. Okay. So think about that. Matt and Bo, looking at what's going on right now in college athletics, what just happened in this season? NIL, the transfer portal, all this stuff's going on. I'm going to throw it to you, Bo. You write for the Football Foundation. The game is as good as it's ever been. What would you compare the upheaval, the concern about NIL in the portal with to that you have witnessed, and we overcame it, obviously, in the history of college football?
Well, Matt has probably seen this. Matt, you're not quite that old, but you've heard stories about it. The national letter of intent for football and other sports was started by a faculty representative at Texas Tech, Dr. Bill Davis, in like the early to middle 60s. And gosh, in the 30s and 40s, especially right after World War II, you had just mass transfers, like almost like today with the NIL. And you'd have people, Rob and Matt, you'd have people leaving Texas A&M at midseason to go to TCU, just absolute. And then the national letter really settled the thing down for about 40 or 50 years. Fred Jacoby from the Southwest Conference was the chair of this, before that Mid-America Conference. But it is just it's opened a brand new can of worms, and you need a program to figure out who's on any school at any given time now.
Well, wait a minute. Let me ask you something. Kind of rewind this for a second. Back in, you're saying the 30s and 40s. We know in 1941, when World War II, for that 4 years, there were several schools that did not have a team for a year or two, like Auburn in 1943. So you're telling me in the 30s and 40s, guys were transferring, say, from A&M to TCU mid-season?
Yes. In fact, Bobby Wilson, who scored the winning touchdown for SMU against TCU in that legendary 20-14 national champion in 1935 that Dan Jenkins has written about 30 times. But I think he started at Sam Houston, might have gone to A&M for like a semester, and then transferred to SM. I think that was his third school in 3 years. So, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I think now the NCAA Transformation Committee or the Executive Committee just said that on a second transfer, you've got to have some kind of extenuating like a family emergency or a financial problem or whatever to be able to. Otherwise, you got to sit out a year after a second transfer.
Bo, you're 100% correct. That passed last week. Matter of fact, that was the NCAA's response to try to limit some of this endless activity in the portal. I think it's more logical and more fair if I get to, let's say I get to University A and it's not working out, I have a chance to go to B. But going from B to C now is going to be, as it should be, and I think COVID kind of put a wrench in everything, with the COVID clock, everyone got that COVID year. And what you've seen, Bo, and I think one of the things that Coach Dykes doesn't get enough credit for nationally, I think people are learning about it, is just how he handled the portal and how they transformed their team from, I think they were they 4-8, 5-7,
5-7, yeah, 5-7
to national championship runner-up. I think that was so. Now, if I'm a coach and I see that template, what am I going to do if I'm not very good? I'm going to work like Coach Dykes did to transform my team. Now that's easier said than done, and they obviously had a wonderful year from their quarterback, and they have one of the best wide receivers coming out of the draft, Quentin Johnson, obviously, but. That's really interesting history, Bo, because I did not realize, the flexibility in the beginning of the system. And but that is obviously a comparison to the times now.
Well, at least we don't have guys now transferring mid-season, showing up on another roster.
We've progressed, Rob.
Yeah, we have progressed. But I'll tell you something kind of funny. You go back to the beginning of the 2020 or the 2021 season, I think Newbaum Turk or whatever. No, Daquan Newkirk, what a name, from Auburn, who was from Apopka, Florida, big defensive lineman, transferred at the last minute, and Tyrone Truesdale out of Augusta, Georgia, had both left Auburn, and one of them got there like the week of the first game of the season and was out there playing. I mean, it was like that guy, that big defensive tackle Jefferson in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Remember, that kid saw him on a Friday or on a school night. He goes, "Oh, wow, he goes to school here? I thought he just flew in on game weekends." And Jefferson, though, somebody put out of the video of Jefferson after they had smashed his Trans Am and they were playing the opponent, and he thought it was the people on the other team that did it, and he was jumping over the line of scrimmage, airborne, and
greatest scene ever in a movie.
Yeah, and somebody put that out on Twitter and said, "Have y'all seen the video footage of this defensive tackle? He's up there thinking he might be a 6-star," and all these people are going, "Man, who's leading on him?" I'm like, seriously? Just Jefferson, man, what a guy. But okay, now the next thing we do it, and I love having this leeway that we do on Sidelines, and go back in the 66, 67, 68, Bo, when they changed the rules on substitutions. And Alabama should have been the first team to ever win back-to-back-to-back national champions. They were robbed in 1966. Robbed. Michigan State and Notre Dame finished in a 10-10 tie. And, the establishment media decided they would be the national champions. Barbara Streisand on that one, BS. Should have been Alabama. Keith Dunavant's wrote a great book. He's written a great book about it. And by the way, Keith Dunavant now, I think, is the new historian for ESPN. I don't know if either of y'all know him. I'd love to have him on the show. What a great spokesman and just historian for college football. Now, the College Football Hall of Fame, we have our friend Kent Stevens over in Atlanta on. Why was the substitution rule so painful for Alabama? I mean, they weren't big by even those days standards, but they had some, obviously great teams, but they had 2 or 3 years in the late 68, 69, 70 where they struggled and lost 4 or 5 games 3 straight years.
Matt, I'll let you lead the way.
You know, I don't know much about 66 substitution rules, Rob, because I was born in 67. So, Bo, I'm going to defer to you on this one, Bo.
Yeah. No, I want somebody to, Ricky Ricardo just texted and said, somebody explain that to me.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know, and what it did more or less, and Matt's seen this happen with Rhodes and, you know, some good old Southwestern Memphis. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. But man, you know, it killed the Vanderbilts, Tulanes, somewhat Georgia Tech, even though Alabama struggled too. You know, they increased the limits on signing. These guys were getting a lot of, you know, Vanderbilt would always get kids out of Bell Buckle in Tennessee. And Matt, you guys and Rob are familiar with that. You know, the prep schools or whatever.
Yeah.
And with unlimited substitution, they had no depth. I mean, their depth was just Alabama could just run a second or third team out there and just smash them in the third or fourth quarter, or Alabama, Auburn, whoever, Tennessee. It got to be kind of embarrassing there. And and then some, you know, Vandy and Tulane had a little bit of a resurgence. Remember Tulane's Liberty Bowl team that beat Colorado, Rob, in the 70s or early 70s. So it took everybody a long time to make adjustments. And last but not least, the Texas, Alabama, and Tennessees were signing people, you know, 40, 45 people in the class just to keep they would sign a guy, and then the guy would play 5 minutes in his career just to keep TCU or Rice from getting another player. So there's a lot of hoarding in those days too. So that really opened the gates.
Yeah, and it did. And you would have guys, not to think that, you know, Alabama ever signed guys and they had 8th team quarterbacks back then, you know. Yeah. How are you? Well, I'm an 8th team quarterback over there for Alabama. So, I mean, you're never going to play, but you weren't playing against Alabama. And that changed everything. And then when we switched the scholarship rules and made it 85, but we all know in 1973, that class they brought in at Pitt, there were Tony Dorsett was in that class, 75, 80 freshmen in that class.
That's right.
And that's crazy. And you look, but Matt and Bo, college football, all this stuff. The reason I'm bringing this up is, what do we hear most often among the talking heads? Most people, okay, their knowledge or their brain is made up of what they've experienced. That's why you've got to study history. And again, go back to 1906. 19 players died in that particular college football season. And if you watch that great movie, Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled, that Norman Jetmanson and David Cruz, and I've gotten to know Norman since late April when he debuted that film down there with the help of the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club. He spent 6 years on that documentary. Norman is an attorney in Birmingham, member of the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club. Absolutely an incredible. Have either of y'all seen that on public TV, or have either of y'all seen that documentary? Anyone?
You know, Rob, as a Rhodes Lynx, and we are big rivals with the Sewanee Tigers. It's going to be hard for you to get me in a room to watch that. But but in all seriousness, I've heard it's unbelievable, and you know, just the history of I had when I became the AD at Rhodes College. There was a ball that I inherited in our room that said we had a 1934 victory over Mississippi State. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. How did we, you know, and that's when we were Southwestern and Memphis, like you referred to, Bo. And it's just really it's fascinating to me. I saw a stat the other day. They were talking about margin of victories in a championship game. I think in 1920, Center College, who's in our league out of Danville, Kentucky, they beat TCU by like 50-some points. Yes. I mean, it's a good recruiting matter for Center College, I guess. Good fodder, but it's fascinating to me. It really is.
Well, let me tell you what, this documentary, what it talks about is that 1899 season. Yeah. Sewanee needed money, and so they scheduled 5 football games in 6 days, and they got on a train and they went out and they played at Texas and Austin, Texas A&M, and College Station. They played LSU. They played Tulane in New Orleans, LSU in Baton Rouge, took the train to Memphis and played at old Crump Stadium, and they played Ole Miss. They won all those games.
That's amazing.
they went 12-0 that season. They scored 327 points. They gave up only 10. And the closest game they had, ironically, was in Montgomery, and it was against Auburn. And John Heisman was the coach.
Mm-hmm.
They ran out of daylight, and they called the game. And when they did that, there were duels, guns were drawn, there were fights, there were riots, and that began Auburn Tiger football. This South Central Bell Auburn football review. Coach Ralph Shug Jordan, backs, run like a wild man. Wild man turned to loose. Be sharp, be focused. South Central Bell. But think about that. But John, leave it to Auburn fans to get riled up, or Alabama fans after a victory. I would never imagine that. But they go back. Sewanee goes undefeated that year. And Matt, I've got a copy for you, and I will give it to you when I'm in Memphis in the next few days. Okay.
We'll play it at a staff meeting, Rob. I'm sure.
But it's a DVD. What it's about, though, is the history of college football and about just the kind of men, the character, and the toughness. And you think about Sewanee's football field is the oldest continuously used football field in college football. We'll be right back with this. Mildred is on the line with more.
Hey y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett and Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne back with Bo Carter out in Dallas, formerly the Big 12 office, SID at Mississippi State for a long time, National Football Foundation, and Matt Dean, Associate AD at Rhodes College over in Memphis. And Matt and Bo, it's not often that you can find somebody who was actually at one of those games, but we got somebody who was there at that 1899 Auburn-Sewanee game. Mildred, just talk about that atmosphere down there that day in Montgomery. What happened? Well, I was there in the stands with my boyfriend Herman, and it got dark, and Herman took his sword out and went crazy. Well, I tell you what, Mildred, appreciate those comments. You go back to bed. I'd love to see your birth certificate. But, I think what we love about college football is the history, the traditions, and the heroes, guys. And Rhodes College, actually, Matt, my dad's blowing up my phone. He wanted to make sure that I did remind you about some of those great Rhodes College Southwestern victories. There's a bunch more of them, and I'm going to actually bring them up with you next week. So it is cool, but the substitution rules, what happened in 1906 when 19 players died that season, Tony Barnhart was on that 150th anniversary of college football. They talked about the state of Georgia. The governor convened a special session of the state legislature. They were considering abolishing college football. The mother of the Georgia player who died spoke on the floor and said, my son wouldn't have wanted that. And they can, obviously can continue to play college football, but we've had some low points along the way, and in college football, some highs and lows, but we always come through it, what's that Song of the South by Alabama. And people were writing America off, and they interviewed, remember that old farmer out there? And he goes, well, we're Americans. We'll fight through it. We'll figure it out. That's the way we are. College football is just a byproduct. It is a tangible product. It's what America is. It's why we love it so much. It's why we love these teams. Remember, y'all ever seen Andy Griffith explaining in that on that album what college football is? Have you seen it, Matt?
I have not. I need to watch that.
You got to get it, man. It's hilarious.
When you give me that DVD on the spot, I need that as well. Yeah.
Matt, here's what you and I are going to do. We're going to go down to Alex's Tavern. We're going to watch that DVD of the Sewanee 1899. Then we're going to listen to Andy Griffith talk about college football. He took.
That sounds like a date. That's great.
Goes, well, they said, dang this thing, and they got this out there on this cow pasture. And they got these men look like jailbirds out there in the stripes, running around and hollering and waving the hands up and blowing whistles. Bo, you can't make that stuff up, can you?
No, they played that. It was part of it. One of his, he did a comedy album about that, and then they did a video to it and a film actually. They played it at the State Fair of Texas before the Oklahoma-Texas game about 5 years in a row in the 19. Hilarious. Man, you got to see it. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I do.
Matt, I know you're old enough to have seen the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, I loved it.
Guess where Goober's from?
Is it from the state of Tennessee?
Jasper, Alabama.
Alabama. Wow.
Guess where Gomer Pyle is from?
I can't guess.
The marble capital of the world.
Is that Durham?
Sylacauga, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just pretty cool to think that Goober, and I call it the Goober to Gomer Highway when I would go back and forth. But college football right now where we are, and both of y'all are great orators, great communicators. I think where we are is we're at a point where the fans are going to start taking back their game that they love. Mm-hmm. And I think this attempt, this narrative being pushed on us that the student athletes are victims is going to get flushed down the toilet where it belongs. And the fans are going to take back ownership and say, here's our pledge. As Granny said on the Beverly Hillbillies, I'm again anything that makes college sports more like pro sports. That's right. That's our pledge. Guys, y'all believe in that?
Man.
I'll start out, Bo. I think listening to Bo's analogy of what was going on in college football in the 30s and 40s and seeing where we're at right now, I think a couple things. I think one, like you've said all along, Rob, you're on that NIL, anti-NIL train. It's not sustainable. That's number one. We have inequities across the board, even in people's own locker rooms. Mm-hmm. We got a quarterback with a great deal. We got an O-lineman that's hoping to get a meal from the quarterback, right?
Yes.
Number two, fans always have control, Rob. Why? Because they control whether or not they buy their season tickets.
Yes.
Right.
And at the end of the day, there are some, when you're not happy with your quarterback play, what do? You stop going to games. Mm-hmm. When you're not happy with your head coach at Auburn, you still go to the games and support, Cadillac. But I just think fans are always in control, and I think this is going to come out in the next 3 to 5 years. You're going to see some major paradigm shifts, and I'm one of the ones that believe that the transfer portal. I will tell you this, Bo, you may not know this about me. I coached small college basketball for the better part of 3 decades, and anytime a young man or young woman came in my office and said, Coach, I'm not happy, I want to leave, especially first 2 years, I'm like, you know what, how can I help you? And so I have a different view on the transfer portal to a degree than some of your other guests may have. But the NIL deal, it's just created so many problems within people's own locker rooms. I don't know how it's sustainable.
Yeah. And Matt, look, I see where you're coming from as a coach after a year or two. If you've exhausted every possible avenue, I understand. I'm talking about 3 months in, 6 months.
No, you're right. But it's like a relationship, Rob. If you don't want me, I don't want you. So,
no, you're right.
And here's another thing. If I thought you were pretty good and I see you every day and you're not very good, I want you gone. So sometimes you're doing the coach a favor by leaving. Just remember that.
Yeah, and also that's why we keep saying the transfer portal, Bo and Matt, is really the new way of either you were going to be cut, you wanted
Right.
to quit, but you're too embarrassed to say you
That's right.
quit. If you have that, hopefully you have the pride to do that because you don't want to be a quitter. And so you say you're in the portal, and then you just get lost, like in the FBI witness protection program. You're living out in, Yuma, Arizona, or somewhere in northern Utah or something. But that's kind of how it goes. But transferring, yes, but give it everything you've got where you are. That's why you've got to do your due diligence before you choose a particular school, not just the coach. I know he's important in that staff recruiting you, but you better love that school. Just like, when you get married, don't just get married for obvious reasons, because about 6 months in, you're probably going to be unhappy.
Mhm.
Too much of a good thing can also not be so good. You've got to have depth. Why did I choose Iowa? Why did I choose LSU or TCU? And you got to think too of, I'm good, but I look around. If I stay here, I work hard. I'm going to get some playing time. I can letter. I'll get my degree, but I'm going to build relationships for business and for life that are invaluable, Bo. That's, and I see where Matt's coming from because he's a coach, and I think you got to give it everything you got before you do leave. But again, sometimes it's a mutual deal, and that's good too.
I think Matt's the majority on this, Rob, because Matt, I've worked with in athletics for like 50 years now, but you see people that say, hey, it's just not working out. I'll try to help you get to Tulane or whatever, you've got, and then you also have, I think it's minority, but you have people that, my problem is going to become your problem now or whatever. But I think, I hate to say it, Matt, basketball, I think might be the bell cow in that one, because the old time on the Pines and LPT or whatever too. They think they should be playing, a starter or whatever too. But it's football, just like you're saying, Rob, with the numbers out there, sometimes you get lost in the shuffle.
Well, I'll think about transfers, and back in the 30s and 40s, if you did it during the season, that is crazy, but guys can be traded in the NBA.
Yeah.
We see that all the time. Mid-season, you're on a team, and 2 nights later you're playing against the team you just played for. That's tough. But I got to tell y'all both, in the past, most of us could know the two, and we knew the depth chart. We knew the roster of our favorite teams. Good luck now. And if you don't buy a program when you go to the game, you don't know who's on the team. Especially with football, with the numbers. Basketball, it's a little bit easier. So it's got to be great for program sales. Maybe that's why some schools also don't put the names on the back of the jerseys.
Rob, quickly about the portal, last thing I'll say.
Yeah.
And this is what I think for my son works in Power 5 football recruiting, but what's really ticking off coaches these days is not necessarily if Bo decides he wants to get in the portal. It's someone talking to Bo before he legally puts his name in the portal. And I think the tampering out there has gotten wild. You talk about Wild Wild West, Rob, it's off the charts. And that's what has really got a lot of old-time coaches feeling right now. This is a bunch of it can't exist. So
yeah. Bo, have you written, or are you planning on writing maybe a treatise of articles, maybe about what is going on in college football and what we need to do to fix it? See, there are people that say, well, these student athletes are victims. They're not. Well, somebody needs to be firing back the NCAA, colleges and universities, presidents, whatever, and saying, here's what we are spending, investing in facilities, and what we invest in each of these student athletes, because they're being noticeably quiet about that.
Yeah.
And all we're hearing is that the student athletes are victims. Spare me that one. Okay. That's a total misrepresentation of what really goes on. You get opportunities of a lifetime. If you go to Auburn or Tennessee or Rhodes, whatever, you could be set for life. You got to work hard, show up early, don't be late, letter, graduate, do the right things. But ultimately, if you ever wanted to put a motto on your forehead, it would be sua sponte. That's Latin for of your own accord.
Yeah.
It's ultimately up to you, isn't it?
It really is. And Matt hit the nail on the head. One thing, and I'll be very brief about this, the NCAA was very concerned with lawsuits. The NIL started going on a state-to-state basis, and outgoing president Mark Henry is going to be replaced by the governor of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, interestingly. A lot of political connection. But I think Dr. Emmert figured, well, we don't want to get involved. We're going to have like trillions of dollars in lawsuits. Let's just let it ride. And that sort of, let the whole thing kind of, just sort of, I don't know, that the snowball started and they just couldn't stop it going down the hill. Matt, you probably have some thoughts about that.
Bo, you're 100% correct. And I think, truth be told, it's probably why Emmert got out a little earlier than he anticipated the job, right? And we are really, we need more leadership at the NCAA level about these issues, especially, the NIL thing. Bo, you touched on a real good point about state to state and the potential, like high school athletes now are having agents contact through their handler, recruiting people all across the country. I mean, think about that. That's not a pro kid going from 3 years of college. We're talking about high school kids. And I mean, it's just, it's really difficult to manage, guys.
Well, I heard a story about a 5-star quarterback in the South at a school. Mm-hmm. Someone wanted to meet with him. He and his handlers were demanding $35,000 cash up front for that meeting. I mean, I'd knock my kid in the middle.
Appearance fee.
I'd knock my kid in the middle of next week if he said that to me. I mean, I can still take them out. Wilson, Max, I hope you're listening. Hallie and Mallory, you don't have to worry about it. But I'm just saying that's insane. We've got to get you got to get a handle on this. That's why you watch the free market, that deal with Florida collapsing like that. As they say in my business, that's the canary in the coal mine. This thing is beginning to collapse. What you had happen at A&M was a flock of canaries in a coal mine, flock of seagulls, okay, near the dump. Trust me, folks, it ain't going to work. Get it while you can. Grab it while you can. But NIL is going to work about as much as people that win the lottery invest that money and spend it wisely. Okay? All right. Most often when we see the face of Christ in the least among us, go out and give with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Just give to give. Don't give to get. And folks, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Don't transfer. I've never known anybody in my life that has left America to go to another country. What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Slim Pickens Film Festival this weekend at Bo Carter's house. It's going to be watching. But, Matt, I got to tell you, if I was a student athlete, I would absolutely be honored to play for you. You are squared away. You got it right. Look at your kids. Look at you. Love your commentary and your insight today. Bo Carter, ditto. And I think what I see from both of y'all is it's not, we're the old guy on the front lawn yelling at the clouds, get off of my lawn, and all that. No, every time I hear that said, it's like, well, you know what? We think we're so smart today because we got cell phones and iPads and all this technology. Are we really any smarter? If we have to tell Siri or Alexis to do everything for us, I'm going to tell you something right now. I see a lot of people riding around on electric scooters. If they call that going on a 30-mile bike ride, come on. You got to have three things in this world to be successful: responsibility, authority, and accountability. But great show today. Got a great one lined up for you tomorrow, the Saturday Roundtable. And Sidelines. Hey, man, what we do, we talk college football, basketball, baseball, sports. That's what we do 6 days a week. www.sidelines.live. Check us out, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I want to thank my producer, Audrey. Special call in from Mildred, her great niece, Petunia, from Slapout, Alabama. Oh, one more thing about that Sewanee team. You tell that Matt Dean, I'll sign his DVD for him and take a picture with him. So, Matt, Mildred's got a thing. She's going to come up there with us, but I'm going to bring you that DVD, Sewanee1899 unrivaled.org. But Bo Carter, looking forward to having you on next week. Matt, let's do this again next week. A lot of fun. Until then, live from the Museum of the Grand Prairie in Stuttgart, Arkansas, this is Rob Browne. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.